traditionally it's kind of thought that you want to get a marketing person or a business development person going out talking to the customer and getting market feedback, and kind of traditionally. But the idea here is that, and that's supposed to be an engineer, but the idea here is that you really want to involve, not just send your marketing guys out or a business guy, but get the engineer involved in that meeting too. Because what you're going to find is that if you have a business type and an engineering type, and you're sitting at the meeting and you're talking to that potential customer, they're both going to hear things in a different way. And that's really, really powerful when you go back and start putting together the concepts and the definition around what you want to do, is to get two different kinds of views, and the person saying the same thing, but the business person heard it differently and the engineering person heard it a little differently. So when you do this, make sure that you involve not just one person, but two different kinds of disciplines. It's really important. So once you have gone out to the, and this is, I know it's an eye chart and you don't have to read the details on this, but, and this is kind of where it gets a little mechanical, but once you've gone out and you've talked to that customer, you've met with a half a dozen of your lead potential partners, which is really important, taking what I call the voices from those meetings, or what you heard, the problems, the challenges, what they like, what they don't like, taking all those voices, discussing them in the team on how you're going to go about developing this technology targeted to that need, maybe some notes from the meeting, and then put down a description of the requirements. And they're all based off, the great thing about this is they're all based off of the voice. So what it does is it takes away some of the debate when you get into the engineering business talking about requirements, because every one of your requirements can be brought back to a voice, what you actually heard that customer say. And that's really powerful. And once you've done that, you put together your description and you put together all the different requirements, then obviously you have to go through a prioritization process. You have your must-haves, you have your should-haves, and you have your nice-to-haves. Okay, and this is a collaborative kind of a thing too. But it goes back to, what the voice. Everything goes back to the customer and what you heard from the customer. So that's just kind of an example of how I've done it in the past, and in fact, we did it at Micro-Optical as well. So this is the kind of the business side of it. But now you have a great idea. You've gone out and you've talked to some lead customers, which is extremely important. You've gotten their voices. You've put together kind of a requirements list, and now you kind of know where you're going with that. Now it's the market assessment, and this is really the the nuts and bolts of identifying your customer base, which is really important. What I found too is that you're going to have your tier 1 guys that you want to go after, and these are the elephants. And you want to land the IBMs or the AT&Ts of the world, or the the Philips of the world. But then you have your tier 2s as well, and I've actually found that sometimes it's harder to get the traction with these guys right away, and it's not such a bad thing to maybe get a tier 2 or to get them on board with your idea and concept, because now all of a sudden you have a proof, an existence proof. So now you go back to the tier 1s, and it helps to kind of move that ball forward. So when you're looking at this, it's not necessarily always having to nail the elephant. Sometimes you can go after those other companies. Sizing the opportunity, total available market, served available market. In the display industry, it's a $60 billion industry. Well, that's total available market, but what we were going after was a signed portion of it, so there's a served. So you really need to have an idea, especially if you're queuing this thing up to go out for money and for financing as well. You really have to have an understanding what the size of the opportunity is. The competitive landscape is interesting because I've kind of grown over the years, and when you're looking at competitors, I don't look at competitors as those are the guys that I'm chasing, because they may be going down the wrong path themselves. But what is interesting is to understand where all your competitors are, what they're doing, how you're positioned against them, maybe a few learnings. So, the idea of a SWOT, depending on what school you go to, it's either a SWOT or a WATS, I guess. Analysis is a good thing. Dependencies is really important. When over at Micro-Optical, we were looking at doing displays for the medical industry. for surgeons that would clip them on during an open heart surgery, and they'd be able to see vital. And Bruce, who will be speaking later on, was the sales guy for that. Well, we found out that there were some other things, if you want to introduce a product into the medical industry, opposed from introducing a product into the consumer industry, that some fun things he had to go through that have to be factored in as well. And then the business model, obviously, you know, how are you going to price this thing, service support, cost margin. So this is the business plan, you know, piece of the whole thing. And a few examples of kind of that things that I've done in the past. This is with our segmented display market. And this was when we were going after the large area displays. You know, things like putting together the segments. So, you know, business, computer, consumer, all the different segments that we were looking at that had a need, a defined need for that kind of technology. A total available market, identify the customers in each one of the segments, limiting factors, and then also the SAM. So with the versions of products that we were going to have, what was the served available market, or the market that we were going after. So, you know, this kind of analysis is really helpful, and it really helps to not only in the financing part, but also just fundamental to your business strategy, because now you know the segments you're going after, you have your customer list, the opportunity, and the factors as a result of your voice of the customer, the factors that are important as you're going out and addressing each one of those segments. This is another one that we've done at Azuki, another way to kind of cut this. This is more of a positioning against competitors or other companies out there that are doing similar things. Some of these companies out here, they're kind of ad-serving platforms, and you have other companies that may do a few other things. Of course, when you're doing this slide, you always turn out looking like the best in every category.
Your category.
Just a little bit of marketing that goes into this, but yeah, but it is. It helps you kind of visualize, and when you're talking and thinking through what you're doing, what are the important pieces, and how do other companies in the industry kind of stack up. That's kind of company focused. You can also do it technology focused, which I think if you're looking at a technology, you have to understand, you know, the different technologies that you're competing against, okay? Especially in displays. It's not just that you're competing against companies, you're competing against technologies. Obviously, the biggest one we're competing with is LCD, and it's one of the biggest, you know, commercial markets in the world. And there are some other ones, LEDs and VFDs, and basically this is a way of looking at the attributes that are important in the segmented display industry we were going after, and then stacking all these up, and then just looking at how our technology matches up against that technology. And this is really, it was really kind of interesting for us, because now it really helped us. Not only we looked at the macro side of competing companies, but also how do we stand up against competing displays.